Welcome to Feature Fridays. My name is Guy Bartram. I'm Director of Product Marketing for our Cloud Provider Business Unit. And today I'm joined again by Nikolai. Nikki, welcome. Thanks for coming back. Do you want to just introduce yourself to people who haven't seen you before?
Thanks, Guy. So my name is Nikolai Patrikov, and I'm a Senior Technical Product Manager at Vmware, responsible for the DRS products. Today I'm going to talk about VMware Cloud Directory Availability 4.4, what's new there, and to show a few demos.
Excellent. Yeah, so Cloud Directory Availability, GA this week, version 4.4. It's got some really nice improvements here. I mean, Cloud Directory Availability continues to be, I would say, probably my favorite product. Not only are the engineering team and you guys all in the technical product marketing team all very cool and understand the product, but it's a great product, and we've seen so much adoption. You know, from a point of view of our cloud providers who are delivering Cloud Director, there's very big, large environment now of cloud providers who are using Cloud Director and using Cloud Director Availability. You know, it's effective, it's cheap, it's free from migration, it supports 1-minute RPO, and got a very exciting new news case to discuss today, Nikolai, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to share that with the public.
All right, let's dive into the new capabilities in 4.4 then.
Okay, sure. So what's new? We have a big highlight, and this is the Vsphere Drn Migration. It's a new destination supported. So far, we support only Cloud Director as a destination. And now with this new release 4.4, we also support Vsphere-based clouds, where we can protect and migrate workloads from on-premises or from other Vsphere-based clouds. So basically, this enables all the functionality that we know to protect, test, and then failover or migrate workloads to these clouds. Also, we have a bunch of new features as well, like the one-click migration, which is making it much easier for tenants to migrate their workloads, literally one click, and I'm also going to demonstrate that. We support extending on-premises network to VMware Cloud on AWS, something that we had for on-premises clouds, and now we also support it for an SDDC hosted there. There are some new reporting capabilities that are based on feedback of providers to make their life easier and to help them analyze and understand and provide the best services to their tenants. So we have Rpo Compliance Reports that show all the Rpo violations for an instance or for a specific organization. This can be generated and provided on, let's say, monthly basis to tenants, so they can see if there were any violations for their protections. Also, we have the monitoring and execution reports for recovery plans that show much more detail for testing, for successful, for failed attempts, and everything. So we are able to see this already in a new report, giving extra level of detail. And some other improvements, as with any release, we make additional improvements to administration, operation, and to managing the product in general. So we have the automated switch of ownership for new replications that are configured by the system administrator. In the previous releases, they just remained under ownership of the system administrator, and now with this new setting, we can switch it to the tenant organization, the org admin, so the tenants can have access and control over these replications after they're initially configured. We have the remote sites and their versions displayed in the UI of Cloud Directory Availability, showing all the parent sites and the version of Cloud Directory Availability they're running. And also an extra step to the upgrade wizard that is showing all the sites that will become incompatible after the upgrade of the cloud site is performed. So you can notify your tenants and they can also take the action to upgrade their instances as well to remain compatible and not have any disruptions to their workloads and their protections. Also, we have a new option to define the disk type provisioning, and this is based on org setting in Cloud Director, whether thin provisioning is enabled or disabled. Based on this setting, the new replications that are defined are going to provision their disks like that. And if there is a seed VM, of course, we use the disk that has already been the disk type that has already been provisioned for the VM, but for new replications, it is valid. Also, a new setting during pairing or repairing of the on-premises sites, where we can allow the cloud, from the cloud side, the system administrator to collect support bundles, which makes it very easy for troubleshooting. You don't no longer need the tenant to be available for a GSS call, for example, because you can take all the support bundles if they allow that, and it's something that enhances troubleshooting. Also, there is a new filter on the main dashboard in the required resources tab, where we can filter by source site. We can take one or many, and it shows the information per organization there to see the different resources required by each organization. And of course, something that I consider very important, and it's the in-product feedback. Now with this feature, every tenant and every provider can submit their feedback that will be analyzed afterwards by the product team, and will be used to make even better products. So I really want to ask people to use it actively and submit their feedback for any new feature, for existing features, for something that's missing, basically everything that is on their mind.
Yeah, that's great. And I just want to add to that as well, that we've got a review site now up and running for our Cloud Direct Availability product. And I'll put the link in the window here. But basically, it's an ability for you, our cloud providers or tenants, to be able to post a review on your thoughts on using the product. And please, please, please post a review. Like I said, it's my favorite product. It's a lot of our cloud providers are very happy with the solution. So if you are happy with the solution, please take 10 minutes, perhaps just to fill out our Captira review. It just helps drive more adoption from our side and more interest in the solution. All right, Nikki, off with the vSphere to vSphere. So this is Cloud Director. Let me just qualify this a little bit first. So Cloud Director availability used to be only if you had a Cloud Director instance. It would be supported with that instance as an endpoint for on-prem to cloud and from cloud to cloud. Now, what this is doing now is basically, if you're a cloud provider and you don't have Cloud Director, and you want to migrate a vSphere custom on-prem to a dedicated vCenter environment, you can use this new capability, free from migration. We've also got one-click migration included in there as well. And this basically opens up the use case for Cloud Director availability quite considerably to all of the cloud providers out there who are delivering private cloud instances and not using VCD.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And this is done by two new appliances that were developed and can be deployed. I'm going to show that during my demo, but basically we have an on-prem appliance and a cloud appliance, vCenter Replication Management. In the cloud, it's a single combined appliance that runs on a single VM and has to be deployed in the dedicated vCenter cloud. And we have the on-premises to cloud vCenter replication appliance that has to be deployed in the on-premises, and both need to be paired, so both need to have access one to each other. And after the pairing is completed, and important thing here, you cannot pair two on-premises appliances. So you always need at least one cloud appliance to pair to. And after these appliances are paired, you can freely start replicating workloads from on-premises to cloud, or cloud from cloud to on-premises, or cloud to cloud, depending on the setup. But basically, all these are supported scenarios.
So Nikki, just one question on this, and I know we'll get asked this. Does the on-prem cloud replicator support multiple targets?
Yeah, it does support multiple targets, so you can pair it to multiple clouds and protect to one or many vSphere-based clouds.
Okay, cool.
And since it's a new appliance, it cannot be combined with the existing Titanos replicator. So if there is already some existing infrastructure in the provider cloud, it cannot be reused, and you have to deploy the new appliance. At the moment, scaling out is only possible by adding additional appliances and pairing them with the on-prem. This is something that we're looking for the future to optimize and make better. And in terms of multi-tenancy, at the moment, it's suitable for dedicated vSpheres, but we're thinking of ways to have the multi-tenancy in place as well in the future.
For shared vCenter destinations, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, I think I can go to the demo. I'll quickly show a few of the new features, and then we'll focus on the Vsphere Drn Migration, going through the whole flow, deployment, pairing, and initial setup, and everything that can be configured afterwards. Here I have vCenter, and I'm going to start with the one-click migration. It's very simple. It's available in the Cloud Director Availability UI, but also in the context menus within vCenter and VCD. So we can just utilize the fast migration. This is how it's called in the UI. And after we click it, we see that first we need to authenticate with the org credentials to be able to utilize the cloud resources. We see that fast migration is in progress, and we're directly pointed to the last step. Here, for destination VDC and storage policy, the first available option is selected. And of course, if the tenant is not happy with the destination VDC, for example, the storage policy, they can go back to any of the previous steps and select a different option. But for most of the cases, they're just good to go and can click finish. And with that, the migration configuration is done. So really a one-click thing. And very easy. It's very useful for self-service, for tenants that don't have experience with that, and to make it simpler for configuring and moving their workloads to the cloud. So with that, I'm going to the UI of Cloud Director Availability, and we'll start here with the new settings. So within settings, we have the default replication owner, which is in this case system organization. And I can change tenant organization. So if I change it like that, every new replication that is created under root or any other system administrator user will be automatically changing its ownership to the organization that corresponds to this replication. So
that would be useful for cloud providers who, well, if you are providing a managed service, then you leave it as the administrator. The cloud provider administrator. If you're not providing managed service and you want the tenant to have self-service, then you select the tenant organization here.
Yeah, it's more useful for self-service or some hybrid service between managed and self, where, or at least you're guiding the tenants for the first few months to help with that. Okay, then what we have is the recovery plans, and here the new thing that we can see is the monitoring. Here, when we start the plan, we can see on which step we are and what is the status of the plan and everything. And after we have a plan executed, it shows that it's completed, and we have the new thing, the reports. Within reports, we can see all the reports associated to this plan. They are kept for 3 months or until the plan is deleted. So I can generate the report for this one, which is in error. It says it was suspended by user, and this is why it failed. So it was not completed. I have the successful test where I can see all the details, the plan name, the type, the site, and the owner of the plan, all the steps, how long they took, how long it took for the whole plan to be executed, and everything. And I also see a report for the cleanup, not only for testing, but the cleanup, how long it took, and whether it was successful to clean up the test results from the destination, and for the actual failover. So basically, they contain all the same information and are in a format that is suitable for distributing to tenants if needed. So I have that, and also the other new report, the Rpo Compliance Report. So here we can see this report generated per organization or for all of them if we have multiple. By default, it contains information also for violated replications that are no longer available, that were deleted, as this one, it has flag on is alive no, which means it's deleted, but we can remove them from the report. We can leave only the violations and generate the report as HTML in similar format to the recovery plan reports, and we also can generate it as CSV file for importing them in some external system, for example. So all this information is included in this report.
Hey, Nikki, can we just have a look at the HTML report again?
Yeah.
And then there was a disclaimer at the bottom there. Do you want to just kind of talk around that disclaimer?
Yeah, so because of the way that HBR, the data engine, operates, there is not 100% guarantee that all violations will be captured on the report. So it's a best effort report. Basically, it can be used, very, very useful, can be provided to tenants, but still it might have some deviations from all the violations that we have. Okay,
so probably useful if a tenant asks for it now and again, but more useful for troubleshooting, particularly like 1-minute RPOs and things like that, just ensuring that everything's good in terms of RPO status.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And I just want to, before you move on, just want to go back to the Vsphere one-click migration. As an end customer, how do I know that migration started and it's in progress? Is there any visibility here?
Yeah, so I have it here in the Cloud Director Availability plugin. Under outgoing migrations, I can see the status of the migration that I just created. And from here, I can trigger the actual migration process afterwards. After, if I want to, I can change the settings, post configuring it, and I can just run the migrate process to move the workload to the cloud.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you still have to go into the Vsphere plugin for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And I can start the one-click migration from here as well. This is the new button for one-click migration. Here I have an extra click to select the VMs, because if I directly right-click on a VM, it is pre-selected for me. Here I need to just select it, and everything else goes exactly the same way.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay. And the last thing, the in product feedback. Here I can submit the message. The company name is optional, so no need, but always it's preferred to have it, because we can then verify with the responsible people for this company that we have understood and are going in the right direction for the feature request or whatever we receive. So it's very easy to send feedback through this form.
And does the cloud provider need to open up any different ports for this? Is it SMTP, or is it some other sort of connection that's required?
I think it requires HTTPS connection to
Okay.
one of the VMware services.
So it should be fine then, should go through your existing replication port.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, with that, I'm going to move to my Vsphere Drn Migration demo. That is pre-recorded to save some time, because some of the processes take a while, like deployment and configuring the protections. So I'll start with the deployment. It's very simple, and again, following the same steps as usual, deploying the OVA template with only one significant difference, and it is the new appliance that is available. Here it is, the new row that we see. Sorry about that. The new row, vCenter Replication Management Appliance in the cloud, and on-premises to cloud vCenter Replication Management in the on-premises end. So after we pick this row, it deploys the single VM. All the rest is the same, putting the network settings, root password, and hostname and network information for the VM to operate. Mm-hmm. And with that, the deployment is done. Very standard, very simple. Only thing to note is the new row, and it's basically the same thing for the on-premises. Here is the new row for the on-premises to cloud vCenter replication. It is a different appliance than the standard on-premises. So if you already have it, it cannot be paired to the new vCenter cloud application. So you need this new appliance to be able to successfully pair, and both can coexist, of course. So there is no problem about that. So you can have your on-premises site paired to VCD-based cloud and Vsphere-based cloud at the same time. And yeah, with that, the deployment is ready. Next, we have the initial setup. It is much simpler than the standard Cloud Director availability initial setup process. We can see the details and which UI to access from the web console under admin URL here. And once we open it, on the first login, we are prompted to change the root password. And after changing it, we need to run the initial setup wizard. Now logging in, changing the password. And we have the initial setup wizard. It is identical for both on-premises and cloud site, with only one difference. The cloud site requires a license key, so you cannot deploy it without a license key, and this is why you cannot pair to on-premises site. You require at least one licensed appliance to have and to pair to it. We need to give the site a name, add the lookup service address that also adds the Vsphere client plugin for Cloud Director availability and makes all the right-click actions and everything there available. And after accepting the thumbprint, our configuration is ready. We can verify that within the system health, but basically this is the initial setup, and it's the same thing on the on-premises. without the license key.
Mhm.
So we added, and we have the initial setup finished. The next thing is the pairing. For the pairing, there is no strict sequence how to pair on-prem to cloud or cloud to cloud, which site to start with. So in my example, it is the on-prem site first, but it can be the other way around as well. And to make a new pairing, we go navigate to the peer sites, click on new pairing, and add the service endpoint address for the other remote site plus the port. All the traffic in the end goes to the appliance on port 8048. So if you use any NAT rules or any proxy, it should point to this port, no matter what is the public address and port. It should always point to 8048 on the inside. And we can add some optional description for easier recognition of the different sites. Then after we accept the thumbprint, we get the message that we need to visit the other site and perform the same steps there to pair with this one. So basically we perform identical steps on the two sites, just exchanging the endpoint addresses of both. And this leads to successfully pairing the on-prem and cloud sites. So here I add my
in your experience, Nikki, is this something that service providers do for the customer, or the customer does their own kind of pairing under guidance with the service provider?
Well, I think that tenants can perform it by themselves. The only thing is the two-way access that is required, which might be a bit of a complication compared to the typical on-prem to VCD scenario, where we can pair an on-prem site without an external access to it. So there we don't need to expose the on-prem site in any way. And here this is the difference, but I guess it can be easily performed by tenants as well. Okay, and last, configuring the new protection. So this can be done from three places, directly from the Vsphere UI through a right click, from the Cloud Director Availability standalone portal, or from the Cloud Director Availability Vsphere Client plugin that is available after the initial setup of the appliance. So here I'm going to do it from the plugin. If we have multiple Cloud Director Availability appliances deployed, we will be able to see all of them and select from the list which one we would like to use if we have the different appliances paired to different cloud sites, for example. And then to create a new protection, we go to outgoing replications, new protection, and we need, of course, to select which VM or VMs we'll be protecting. Then select the destination site and the destination data store where the protected VM will be placed. And we have the additional replication settings that are valid for protection, like the RPO settings are valid for protection. And we support up to 1 minute RPO as well for Vsphere to Vsphere, not only for the Cloud Director based clouds. We can define again up to 5 additional retention rules for rotating the different instances of this protected workload with different schedules. We can activate crashing, enable traffic compression, select the disk provisioning type on the destination based on the data store and the storage policies and everything. We have the option to perform a delayed initial synchronization if you want to do it outside of working hours, for example, not to interfere with the VM and its operation. And after we configure everything, we just click finish.
So Nikki, just on the thin or thick provisioning, that's the resulting deltas that will get rolled up into the thin or thick provisioned disk. But for the initial replication, you're still going to require the same size as the source disk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that initial replication, just to make sure everyone's kind of clear on that, when you do a replication, initially the target VMDK will be exactly the same size as source VMDK until it's provisioned, and then it's deleted, and deltas are then created for ongoing replication. So you do need to make sure that if you've got 100 gig on a customer site, that you've got 100 gig on the target site for that initial replication, but then after that it will drop to just the delta sizes. So is that right?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And this thin and thick provisioning is new, right? That's one of the new features.
Yeah, it's new, and the selection menu is available for Vsphere to Vsphere replications.
Okay, and in this instance where I could have many sites, right? So there's a large enterprise with many remote offices that want to start replicating to a central vCenter image, vCenter server. Am I going to be able to see the storage compute requirements and the version of the plugin they're running from the same kind of capability that we have in the new enhancements?
Not yet. These are not yet available, but we're going into direction to align all the available features for VCD-based clouds and to make them available for vSphere-based clouds as well.
Okay, so it won't really be a problem because there will probably be very few releases between that feature coming and what we have now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's under the roadmap. Okay, so what we can do post-configuration, again, change the settings, the RPO, and the rest of the replication settings, change the data store, and after that, we can just perform a test or run the actual failover. For test, we have a few things to note here. When testing or when doing the failover, we need to select the destination VM folder where it will be placed on the destination vCenter and the compute resource. And under network mappings, we also define which adapter will be connected to which network on the destination. Here is how it looks. We have all the adapters of the VMs, and we select for each one of them to which network they will be connected. After that, we can select whether to power on or not the VM, and for testing, we can synchronize to the current state of the VM or select a historical instance of this VM if you want to test with a specific instance, or we can just use the current state. And then after we start the test and it's completed, the source workloads are not affected, so they don't even know a test is going on. And on the destination side, we are able to see the VMs powered on, and we can verify that everything with them is okay, that the applications are accessible and properly working, and we can make sure that this instance, for example, is good for failover. After we are finished with the verification, we can just run a test cleanup, and this will power off and remove the VMs from the destination, again, without any interference to the source side and the source VMs.
Always remember to do the cleanup.
Yeah.
It's often a piece that people don't think about, but effectively you've got replica VMs running on the destination site if you don't do a cleanup.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have the actual failover. It's pretty much the same thing, selecting the VM folder, compute resource, networks, and instance to use for the failover. And we just started, which results into having the VMs again powered on at the destination vSphere site. So basically, this is what I wanted to show in terms of Vsphere Drm Migration. It is very simple, very intuitive. Most of the settings are kept. So if a user already has experience with Cloud Direct availability, they'll find it very easy to adapt to the new features, and will be able to perform a replication in just a few simple steps.
Brilliant. Okay, Nikki, can we go just back to, I mean, that's fantastic to see that. So thank you for doing the recording and walking us through that. Can we go back to the slide? I'd just like to run through, you know, those main features again of the release. So we did the Vsphere Drm Migration. So this is customer on-premise vSphere with a new type of appliance to a dedicated vCenter instance, again with a new type of appliance there. And you could do many on-prem to one vCenter or on-prem to different vCenters. Tell me if I'm wrong on any of this. I'm going to just summarize some of the information I heard. One-click migration, that enables a tenant basically to drive a self-service migration with all of the options automatically selected for them. They can, however, go back into that and check change the migration parameters and destination stuff. That's cool. The network extension from VMware Cloud, that's a layer 2 connection, isn't it? From on-prem or for the cloud provider site to VMware Cloud and AWS?
Yeah, that's correct. And it follows the same architecture with the autonomous edge and creating L2 VPN server session and on the destination, and a client session on the on-premises side that is established with the server session, but basically follows exactly the same steps as with NSXV or T based on-prem clouds.
Yeah, great. And that's a one-way migration for VMware Cloud and AWS, isn't it? Due to the nature of the replicator appliance that we're using.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just check if I'm right in saying that Cloud Direct Availability supports Google Cloud VMware Engine as well as a destination under Cloud Director Service Control. But in that scenario, the Cloud Director instance needs to be deployed into the tenant's domain. Is that correct? Not into the management domain?
Yeah, it is under the workloads domain. And from there, it because it is a bit different than the VMware Cloud, as there is the so-called solution users in vSphere that are used for the deployment and for connecting to the lookup service, as they allow utilizing the full capabilities of HBR. So thanks to these solution users, we can use the VMware, the Google Cloud and GCV as a standard on-prem cloud in terms of behavior. Okay,
great. So we could actually replicate Google Cloud to Cloud Director then, would that work?
Yeah, we can perform all the protection and migration operations from on-prem cloud to Google Cloud, and the opposite direction, as the Google Cloud uses Cloud Director Service. So basically, it is between Cloud Director Service and Cloud Director.
Right. Okay. But could you also use this Vsphere Drm Migration capability in Google Cloud as like a standalone SDDC vCenter to a service provider dedicated vCenter?
Yeah, as long as you have access to the solution, to one of the solution users, then yes.
Yeah,
because cool. You get high privileges for vSphere.
All right, that's great. So there's a whole load of like new business opportunity with customers with dedicated vCenters to service providers providing dedicated vCenter clouds. Equally with Google Cloud direct to on-prem provider or to CDS as well as an endpoint, and obviously the one-way migration from either VCD or on-premise to VMware Cloud and AWS. The network extension piece only applies for VCD to VMC on AWS, right?
The network, it is from also for on-prem to.
Oh, okay.
Because
Cool.
it uses the autonomous edge.
Yeah, brilliant.
To deploy it on-prem, and then through the Cloud Director Availability UI, you perform all the configuration in a few simple steps, and that's it. Your network is extended.
This is what I love. It's great. It's all fitting together now. It's great. Okay, and RPO compliance, we saw those reports, but bear in mind they are best effort reporting. So use those for troubleshooting and potentially when a tenant asks for them to provide them. But there is that caveat in the report. Recovery execution plans execution report. Sorry. Yeah, we saw that. That makes absolute sense. So with the recovery plans feature that we introduced in the last version, this is kind of like the step up from that, which is now being able to provide a report on the execution of that recovery plan. Increase your self-service or managed services without assignment of the replication status to either the tenant admin or the cloud provider admin. Remote site compatibility pre-check. That's only going to be for the VCD endpoint VCDA instances, where basically all of your on-prem vSphere appliances can report the version into the VCD Cloud Director Availability UI, and you can then assess whether, if you do the upgrades, you're going to break any compatibility with existing on-prem tenant instances and get them to upgrade it before you do the upgrade. Replication alignment to the destination storage profile. So that's thin and thick disks inherited from the VCD storage profile at destination. That's great, but still remember you're going to need that initial size for the replication. So our guidance on setting up the org VDC storage is to not limit the storage profile in terms of volume gigabyte, because what you'll see is it'll be a slight expansion, and then you'll be back down to normal replication when you start a replication. Endpoint support bundles, great. Resource capacity filter, that's going to help cloud providers judge how much they're going to need in terms of compute and memory, CPU and RAM, and storage. Storage is, I guess, already accounted for, right?
Yeah, so it's CPU and memory.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then in product feedback, fantastic. So lots of really cool features there. I hope our cloud providers like them and they can feedback directly on their thoughts and feelings of these new features, and indeed what they want to see in future releases. So increasing that, that openness and communication with our cloud providers, fantastic.
Yeah, and one very important thing to mention, that the new Vsphere Drn Migration is also metered by usage meter. So
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. How's that set up?
The same way, you just need to add the endpoint of the cloud appliance, vCenter cloud replication. All the appliances need to be registered within usage meter under VMware Cloud Director Availability, the same way, providing the URL and root credentials. And with that, their data will be taken. And if it supports usage meter 4.4 and above, and for 4.4, the reports are mapped to the existing use cases, so you'll be able to have proper information, and even by using an older version of usage meter.
Okay, and does that all flow through the same port? Was it 8084?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So the endpoint that you have and that you can find under settings, service endpoint address, this is what needs to be provided for usage meter as well.
Okay, that makes sense. And just to confirm, there's no customer data being collected, right? We're just collecting number of replications, the number of protections, and what do you call them? Protections and migrations, right?
Migrations, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Nikki, thank you very much for all of your help today and running through this. I'm super excited to see another great release of Cloud Director Availability. I think, like I said, fantastic product, keeps on evolving, keeps on innovating, and looking forward to the next releases. Thank you very much, Nikki.
Thanks a lot, and stay tuned to our blog where we're going to share more details about all the features.
Perfect. Cheers.
Goodbye.